G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad Fantasy Show for NRL. I'm Dill, I'm Stu, that's Dill, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We are back partnering with GameDay Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League this season. Dill, it's Wednesday. It's come around so quickly once again, and you know what that means. Teamless Tuesday has dropped, and it's time to take a deep dive into our Round 7 GameDay squads. Before we get into that, how did you go last week in round 6?
Yeah, mate. G'day, Stu. G'day, viewers and listeners. Obviously, you're in all sorts this week. Not sure where you are, and that is fair because we are on holidays and we are loving life. I am coming to you live from the Gold Coast, from Coolangatta, and it could not get any better down here. So I'm pretty pumped for this week as well. Another massive round in NRL. Round 6 results. Look, let's not talk too much about the weekly competition results. They're a difficult read for me at the moment. A couple of poor rounds has me a little bit outside the top 20. I've got a little bit of work to do, but I'm sure I can make up a bit of ground and hopefully get at least inside the top 20 and then focus on that top 10 for a prize card potentially. But the big news, mate, is that I did get up in the GDS Cup matchup. So I am moving on to round 4. So that continues to be my main focus and where I'm putting all my time and effort in. How about you, mate? How did you go with your results this week?
Yeah, firstly, congratulations, mate. Well done. Still flying the flag for the Fantasy Bros in terms of GDS Cup success. I love it. And I'm here to support you until the very end. Well done. Yeah, not as great for me last week in terms of round finishes. I think I came third the previous round in the Challenger competition. No top 20 finishes this round, but still hanging around three of the four comps. I'm in the top 20 overall. I think 9th is my best placing currently in the starter comp. So yeah, just still hovering around that top 20, really hoping to push into the top 10 and top 5. But mate, we're 6 weeks down. It's a long, long way to go. Still a lot of games to play and a lot of points to be scored.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. There's still plenty of time to be able to creep back into that top 10 for sure. Look, and don't forget, we'll come to you live throughout the season every Wednesday night. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is FantasyBros AU. You can also see us on the GameDay Squad YouTube channel, as well as the GameDay Squad Facebook page. So make sure you hit up those, subscribe, throw a like out, and then get around the weekly show. We'll discuss all the important start sets of the week and reveal who we're starting in our starter squads. We'll continue doing that until maybe I get kicked out of the GDS Cup. Hopefully that will be all the way until the final round. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our other socials as well. We're on YouTube, obviously, but we'll be posting more on TikTok and Insta throughout the season. If you are on either of those platforms already and following us, you would have seen Stu's massive legend hit. So if you haven't seen that yet, make sure you head over there and check out that short. We'll be putting up plenty more, including a couple tomorrow afternoon, maybe Friday afternoon as well. We'll also have some content there, as well as plenty of pack and card giveaways throughout the season. Also, don't forget, just before we talk about what's happening in the show, make sure that you comment, just like Sif Kanga has done. His comment here, let's go. He's always one of the first in the chat to let us know that he's around. Awesome work, Sif Kanga there, mate. And I'm sure Mel's not too far away. Remember, you can post your questions, your 50-50s, start sits, whatever you like, who you're playing, who you're sitting for the week. We would love to get around it and join in on the fun. Stu, you want to talk about what's happening and also how people can get involved in GameDay Squad?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's definitely not too late to get started at all. While you might have missed out on a shot at GDS Cup glory, it's certainly not too late to get started and win some fantastic prizes every week and even season long as well. You can sign up for free today and you can win fantastic cash and pack prizes every single week. And you can open plenty of packs for free. And if you use our code FBRL25 upon sign up, you'll even get 3 pretty handy 9-player common packs that you can start filling out some classic and challenger squads. So that code again was FBRL25. Even if you're a new user, use that code, sign up now, and enjoy the love of opening up all of the packs and then heading over to the transfer market and seeing if you can trade them off for some better players as well. If you're in the chat or if you're a regular, make sure you're getting your friends involved as well. They don't even need to have any understanding or knowledge of rugby league. They can easily get started and they'll be hooked immediately, combining our passions of rugby league and opening cards and combining it into one. I love it, Dill. You love it. And it's a great way for people to win cash, to win prizes, and to come together as a really fun community over there on the Discord. So great to see Sif Kanga in here like always. Melissa's here now as well. Looks like Melissa's just having some dinner. So great for you to join us once again. So yeah, Dill, plenty of ways that viewers can get involved in Game Day Squad, and can get our mates involved as well, so they can open some packs and enjoy the love there as well. What's happening on today's show, Dill?
Yeah, mate. The other thing I really like about it as well is the trading aspect. So you open your packs and you can trade with your mates, and that's been a really good feature as well. So really loving that feature, and hopefully I might get a trade done this game. This show. So if you are sitting there on the Discord, or you're watching us on YouTube, and you see a Toby Couchman up there, a platinum Toby Couchman, let us know, because that. There you could earn yourself a platinum Toby Couchman. All you need to do is put up your bronze Toby Couchman, and I would love that. I need a bronze for my team still. Mate, today on the show, our weekly Wednesday night shows, we preview all of the best players that we think are going to have a great game for the round across each of the positions. We'll reveal who we're playing in our all-bronze starter squads. We might even talk about a few of the other competitions as well, where we might hedge our bets a little bit there. And as always, everyone will have a chance to win some cards through our Bro Down Showdown segment. We changed it up a little bit last week, and we're going to continue that theme. The other thing we've already talked about a little bit is the GDS Cup. Round 3 has been completed and winners have been notified. I love that. Game Day Cow chucked that up nice and early for us as well. That was good. I was pretty nervous Monday morning. Really wanted to see those results. It means that we've halved the coaches again, so there's a remaining 64 there going head-to-head. Remember, you don't need to do anything except set your starter squad, and the boys will take care of the rest of it. It'll be good to see a couple more wins there. I know Mel was pretty nervous, and she got up in her victory as well. Remember, if you make it all the way through to the end, you are the last coach standing. You will win the 33rd pick in the 2025 GDS Rugby League prize card draft, which is absolutely massive. Usually a prize card is only for those top 10 finishers across each competition, but you're going to give yourself an opportunity there. And also on screen, some good and some bad gold diggers. They had the highest score in the GDS Cup remaining, so they scored 10.56. So well done to gold diggers. And then unfortunately, Tash on the other side was the biggest loser for the round. Tash scored 9.92, but unfortunately was done in and was eliminated from the Cup. She had the highest score in a losing side. So unlucky Tash, you did well to get this far, but it, just like we continue to say, it's not always about scoring the most points. It's about beating just your opposition, who you're going head-to-head with. So, yeah, some big prizes still on the way there and plenty of opportunity to score.
It's a bit of luck involved there, isn't it, Dill? Word is that you've gotten through the last 3 weeks, but you've also scored a lower score than the top-ranked loser as well. So a bit of luck falling your way, which is always handy. The person that knocked me out in round 1 of the GDS Cup, Tallad's Turtles, commiserations to you as well, mate. You were knocked out in round 3. So I was cheering for him. If you weren't going to win, I was hoping he would, because he knocked me out. But now it's you and you only that I'm rooting for. Sean's joined us in the chat. G'day, buddy. You'll have to check out the little reel I made, mate. There's a pretty big card pack there. Maybe not big in terms of this year, but let's wait for 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 or 7 years, and he could just be a household name of the NRL. He's not from the team that you support, but he's got some black and orange about him on his jersey. So go take a look at that, and let me know if there's any interest in adding him to your roster. Hey, Dill, you want to jump into the positions for round 7?
Yeah, mate, let's do it. We're starting off with hookers, and I think we both agree it's probably a pretty sore sight for sore eyes in terms of who we can pick this week. And we've gone a couple of different players. Who are you looking at, mate? And give us some reasons why.
Yeah, not wrong, mate. Such an unattractive position for me this season. We're seeing a lot of players sort of finish in that 40 to 50 point range. week in, week out. Outside of Reece Robinson's 69 points last match, only 2 players went above 50, and that was J&K with 55 and Mamazelis with 52. Harry Grant even scored a try in a big 40-plus point win in their match against the Warriors, and he could still only muster 49 points. So it's a really difficult position. And for me, because it's so boring, I'm just going to stick with what works. It's not pretty. It's not attractive. It's Blake Brayley. But he's just continuing to make some big tackle numbers. He's got the second most tackles made in the comp. His efficiency is super high as well, meaning he's not missing many tackles and losing demerits. I think that's where he gets a big tick in terms of his comparison with Harry Grant. He's starting to run the ball a little bit more, which is great for some running meters, but he's always got that little bit of upside close to the try line where he can either dart over himself or, throw that sort of crash ball to a big AFB or Tommy Hazleton. We saw Hazleton score 7 tries last year and AFB score plenty as well. So it won't be too far before he gets a couple of try assists next to his name. But for the moment, I'm just locking in that sort of 47 points and I'm moving on to the next position. What about you?
Yeah, mate, it seems like it's a pretty safe bet, isn't it? He sort of Brayley sits around that 45 to 50 points and you know what you're going to get every week. I think he's averaging about almost 50 points in base just through tackles alone. And then obviously a couple of points either side of that with, very few missed tackles, maybe an error or two. And then if you're lucky, you might get a try assist there from him. And I guess that's the thing. If he does get some of those attacking stats, then I think he's going to be a lot juicier in the next few weeks. The other thing that I think coaches will probably look at is the man at the top of the average list in Wade Egan, the Warrior. He still had a pretty decent game against the Storm, considering the Warriors weren't able to do a whole lot in that game, like we predicted. But again, he comes up against the Broncos side this week, and that matchup just isn't ideal for me. The Broncos continue to limit points to hookers. I think they're averaging to hookers about 28.3. To that position, which is, again, the second lowest in the competition. So I'm fading Wade Egan again, just for that one more week. I want to see a more positive matchup for him, just to be able to allow me to feel a little bit more confident. So I'm going to take a little bit of a punt this week on Damien Cook. I think it's going to be a little bit left field, and I feel like he might be a potential pod, but we finally saw that 80-minute sort of lock hooker role that we spoke about in preseason that we thought he might get early on. And I feel like maybe he's been working into it. So look, the Dragons have named pretty much an identical side to they did last week, although they haven't had that Egan come on the field yet. But I feel like that might be the case. He might start again. So I don't see a reason why Cook won't continue in that role and play the 80 minutes again. It didn't necessarily translate last week to bulk GDS points, but Manly are allowing still an average of 37 GDS points to hookers, which has them ranked 5th for most points allowed to hookers. And they did allow Wade Egan 72 earlier in the season, and then Brayley as well, 50 points last week. So look, the other thing I like is that if he does move to that lock role, Manly allow an average of 46 points to lock. So between those two positions there, I feel like he probably makes up that 45 anyway. And it might not end up being too much of a risk, but he does have that upside of playing 80 minutes and maybe getting a few more base points. And then the Dragons are looking pretty good this season in terms of attack. So if he gets anything off the back of that, I think I'd be pretty happy. So I'm going to take a little bit of a punt in a couple of teams, and then obviously look at Brayley and a couple of other teams as well.
Yeah, that 42-point average for Cookie this season is a long way off his 61 or so from last year. But yeah, if he's getting back to that 80 minutes and he's playing a bit of that lock role where he runs a bit more as well, that's certainly going to be conducive to some fantasy point scoring. So maybe you're getting a jump on everyone and getting in a week earlier, and we'll all be looking to play Cookie in our teams next week. But it'd be interesting to see how he goes for you, mate. Can't knock it, but it'd be a bit disappointing if he gets spelled for little at the 50-minute mark and sort of only comes back for 10 or 15. But look, you've got to take some of these chances to get a jump on everyone else in the comp. Mate, moving on to the middles. I've changed strategy a little bit this round, and I'll report back with some findings next week. But we've spoken a lot about sort of loading up on the middle forward position and just banking the safety of middle forward points on our bench. Well, we start with 3 middle forwards and then we add 2 to the bench as well. I'm reversing that train of thought entirely this week. I'm going to start 3 middle forwards and have none on my bench. So I'll let you know the three middle forwards I'm playing. It's probably going to be not much of a surprise for anyone, and you can probably add on a few points to these guys or let me know who else we should be considering. But for me, it's just the big three in Haas, May, and Isaiah Yeo. I'm going against the grain and looking at some more edge forwards for my bench spots. Outside of Haas, May, and Yeo, we're seeing some big front row forward numbers at times, but outside of that, it's really, really hard to predict. Connor Watson started the season with some really big scores. We've seen a couple of tries scored by Plath. Adam Fanua-Blake's had some really big games, and they left the field early and had limited minutes with that groin strain in the match just gone. So Tapane as well has been really outstanding. He's been scoring tries as well, but now, Hosking comes back into that team and he's going to play a lot more minutes than the other bench forwards that they've had there in the past. So for me, there's just too many sort of question marks around the likelihood of matching some of these big scores week after week for some of these middle forwards. And I'm just going to go after some of those edge guys who don't really average a lot less in base, but also have much more of a ceiling in terms of upside. So Haas, May, and Yeo, we know what we're going to get from them. Big 60-plus points, hopefully. But, those other guys can knock out 40s or even worse at the best of times. So I'm looking elsewhere. What's your thoughts about that, mate? And who are the middles that I'm overlooking for this round, do you think?
Well, look, at this stage, I was going with the big three, obviously, in Haas, May, and Yeo. And I was going to just stick with AFB for one more week as well. But I think that may have completely changed. I think I might follow you a little bit, play 4 middles and then 1 edge on the bench as well, because in breaking news, the Toby Couchman bronze does exist. He is there. And not to give away what I'm going to talk about in the edges, but I think I might just have got one. So that might change my strategy a little bit.
You're kidding.
Live on the show, someone has given that trade up. And we'll talk about him soon. We'll continue with the middles though. So look, I'm definitely going to play Haas, May, and Yeo. They are the super consistent. We see them at the top of the averages and the top of the points scored pretty much week in, week out. Yeo had a big game last week as well, back to sort of his best. And Haas and May just continue to dominate, and they've always got that attacking upside. I was looking at AFB, and I feel like some people might be turned off AFB now with a couple of down games. Like you said, he did go up the tunnel early in that win over the Sea Eagles, which could be concerning. However, they've named him again on Sunday. So I guess if people were keen to sort of play him, the benefit is they do play the last game on Sunday, but there is that's the late game, but there is a game on Monday for Easter Monday. So there is an opportunity to be able to pivot if they do make a late change and AFB isn't fit enough to play that game. So it sort of limits your pivot options a little bit, maybe. And probably that's why if you were going to play AFB, I'd put him on your bench and just keep an eye on late mail throughout the weekend. And then it's easy to make a change to a hooker, to an edge, to another middle, if that comes through that he's not going to play. So that would be my advice. If you are going to play AFB with a little bit of injury cloud around him, I'd probably put him on my bench and just be able to make that switch there. And then you could sort of switch, like I said, to an edge. You could look at maybe a Preston, a Young, or a Fafita if you're not playing them on your field, or a Couchman if you do have that. The fourth middle that I'm going with is that bloke that you spoke about in Joe Tapane. I think he's been playing some unreal footy, to be honest. And I think he did have a slow start in Vegas. However, since then, he's been on just an absolute tear. He's scored an average of 70 GDS points in the last 3 games, while only averaging about 56 minutes on the field. So that's a PPM way above 1, which we're always happy to see with our middle forwards. If we can get that points per minute above 1, then we're pretty happy with that, considering they sort of play about that 55 to 60 minute role when they start. So if Tarps can continue that, then I'm pretty happy with going with that sort of 56 to 60 with that added benefit, like we've seen in the last couple of games, particularly in the last 3 games, where he's had that opportunity to score some really attacking points as well. So I'm happy to run with those sort of the 4 best middles in Haas, May, Yeo, and Tapane, and then we'll see what happens with that 5th position. But now that I've got that Couchman, I think I'm pretty keen to run that on my bench as well. The thing for Tapine, I guess, is the good thing is the Titans have been a little bit susceptible to starting front row forwards. They've allowed 55, which, if Taps can get 55, then anything above that is going to be gold. So, yeah, those are the ones I'm going with.
Yeah, I like it, mate. Yeah, I definitely have Tapine over Adam Fanua-Blake, just with those question marks around his injury. And if, we saw if the Sharkies are going well, he's not going to come back onto the field. But Joe Tapine is used a lot by Sticky. He's obviously got a really good forward pack there at his disposal. And we just had seen the one game with Hosking and Tapine both in the 17, and Tapine only got the 45 minutes there in round one. So I'll just be curious to see how he does use all of those middle forwards. Obviously, Nicholson didn't play in that match in round one either. So, he's just about assured himself at least that 60 to 80 minutes on the edge, and maybe even some minutes through the middle as well. It just becomes a little bit more cloudy for me. I might miss out on a big Tapine score this round by not playing him, but I just like to see how Sticky uses that pack with all of the troops available, because there's some big boys in there that gets through some big minutes. But yeah, Tapine's upside is definitely capped if he's not getting those minutes. Mate, you've alluded to this player a couple of times. He's in the edge forward position. So let's jump across to the edges and tell me which of those 6 names jumps out of you. Which one are you thrilled to be adding into your side for the first time this year?
Well, I was going to start off and say, does a Toby Couchman bronze really exist? Because I just couldn't find one anywhere. But yeah, as I said, I finally got one. So he comes straight into my side. I think it's pretty clear. You've got that middle forward starting on the field for the Dragons, but he's slotting into the edge for Game Day squad. So I think that's just absolute gold. We saw last week he had a bit of a niggle, but he powered through it. And look, he's still averaging over 50 in base, which is absolutely huge. He's averaging about 60 minutes per game, but he's had a couple of big games already where he's played close to 70 minutes. So, I would expect that if he didn't have that knee niggle last week, he probably would have played closer to 70 as well. The other thing I really like is that he's limiting those demerits again. We spoke about that last week. His tackle efficiency is still around 97%, and he's only made 3 errors across 5 games. So that's a huge workload that he's getting through, and really being really positive with the work that he's getting through. So I really like that. And for me, I think he's a bit of a cheat code in Game Day squad, to be honest. You're getting the upside of a middle forward in that sort of volatile edge position that we've seen in the past. Hamole has had a couple of down games, and he could come out and have a massive game this week. Who knows? Katoa had a down game last week against a Warriors side that allowed 42 points. So, that edge position is really volatile, and having someone like Couchman that just gets through his work and just does what he needs to do and score your 55, your 60 points in that position, I think is, absolute gold for me.
Just jump back to the middles really quickly. Got a little comment here or question here from Jay Boney. That's a new name here in the chat. So g'day, Jay Boney. Thanks for joining, buddy. Jay Boney's just said Tapine over AFB. Yeah, I mentioned it just before, mate. I'm a bit more likely to play Tapine given that upside that he presents with the Raiders going really well, and the AFB injury could mean that his minutes are down or his output's down, or he's a bit more of a running middle forward rather than a tackle breaking or an offloading forward for the next round or two, depending on how that injury is going. Yeah. Dill, everything you said about Couchman there, spot on, mate. Yeah, I can't believe how good this guy's been after just a few games in first grade last season. He's looks like he's got Origin written all over him. I think he'll be in and around that arena, if not this year, then the next couple of years for sure. The one thing I would be a little bit concerned about is that knee that he kept clutching at during that match. There was a try called back from the Titans where he could have covered across in the middle and made that tackle on De Groot, I think it was. I think the try did get called back due to a previous an error, but he sort of clutched at that knee and couldn't even move laterally to make, or even attempt to make that tackle. But he soldiered on, and he was on about 40 points after 30 minutes. He'd already had 3 offloads and 3 tackle breaks before his first spell. And without that knee complaint, he could have got way more than 50 minutes and pumped out an even bigger score. So that 50 minutes and that 66 points was probably low in terms of his output on the field. He's definitely got a chance of playing above 60, and we've seen him play a 69 and a 70-minute game already this season as well. So he just works, and he's tackle breaking and offloading, which we love to see. So, yep, I love it. You said enough. He's a cheat code. He's an edge player. We've both got his bronze cards, so he's definitely in our starter squads. And I've also got a diamond card, so he'll be featured heavily in my champion team. Mate, plenty of other names there on the edge list for this round. As I said earlier, I'm going to be playing 4 edges. I really like the look of Hudson Young. I've been hesitant to play him over the last couple of matches, given he's been scoring some really good points, but that's come from the back of a lot of tries. But it just proves to me that he's a really vocal point in that Raiders attack, particularly down the left-hand side. He's been linking up really nicely with Seb Chris. We know that Ethan Strange loves to run the footy and he doesn't pass too often. But Hudson Young just needs early ball. He'll fend off. He'll break a tackle. He'll offload when he's fallen to ground. He just seems to make things happen. He runs through from kick chases. He can grab bombs in the air as well. And I think he's someone that we can start playing fairly often, even if he's getting a lot of points through that try scoring or attacking upside. Even when he's not scoring, his lowest score is sort of about a 44, and his average is about 48 if you take away some of those tries. But we've spoken before about blokes like Connor Watson, Max Plath, Adam Fanua-Blake, these middle forwards, they've all scored, low 40s as well. So when someone like Hudson Young presents that really big upside there in a team that's really good at attacking and scoring points and probably chasing games as well because they're leaking a lot of points as well, I really like him as a play there on my left edge. And he's even in that same conversation as David Fafita when he's playing well. We obviously know that Fafita is a massive game breaker, and he does it almost every time he takes the field when he's got a little bit of motivation under his belt. But yeah, Hudson Young on his best performances, he can be as close to damaging as David Fafita. Yeah. So I'm going to pair them both in my starting lineup. They're with Toby Couchman on the bench with Jacob Preston as well.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I like Hudson Young as well. He probably just doesn't quite make my side this week. I guess the attacking upside is the positive from him, but 40 points if he doesn't necessarily score those tries. I just want a little bit more. And that sort of the matchup against the Titans, it's sort of both sides of the park are similar in terms of to right and left edges in attack. They both sort of score or have been averaging around 44 to 45 points on both sides of the field. So there's no clear advantage there, I don't think. It doesn't mean he won't score well. It just means that sort of the attack might go both sides of the field. But I agree with Jacob Preston and David Fafita. I think I'm going to run both of them in my start and then have that Toby Couchman bronze on my bench there as well. Look, David Fafita is one of my favourite players, and I have been pretty hesitant to start him with him coming off the bench and sort of not having the greatest start and not knowing exactly what the coach wanted to do with him. But then he was named to start up this week after being that late inclusion into the run-on side last week and having, a really massive blow-up game. I hate chasing last week's points, though, and that's what I'm nervous about with David Fafita. He doesn't often have 2 massive games back-to-back. But the thing I liked was he had a massive game and he got the 74 minutes and, probably only just had a spell just to rest him up a little bit more so than anything. So hopefully he can go back to that 80-minute role and he can really get to that sort of beast mode that we know he can have. He made the most of his 74 minutes as well, which I loved, running over 200 meters, making 25 tackles, offloading 4 times, breaking 11 tackles. So it was like classic Fafita that we know and love. He comes up against the Raiders that have been up and down this season as well, but they've allowed plenty of points. And we continue to talk about sort of those big games for the Titans being able to score a lot of points and then the Raiders leaking a lot of points. The Raiders conceded 132 NRL points across the first 6 games. So, if Fafita comes out with beast mode on his mind and plays as close to 80, I think he probably should be the top scoring edge for the week, I think, for sure. And then, as you said, that other bloke in Preston, I think the big question mark is I think he's got number 23 on his back at the moment in Viliami Kikau, and whether he comes back or not. That's the concern for me. Hopefully Kikau stays on the extended bench and we get Preston lining up on the left there with Birdo, which I think is the first time that they're going to pair up together, which could be unreal. The other thing I like about Preston is probably not many coaches have got him on the mind as well because they had the bye last week. So they're sort of thinking about last week's points and where they might be going with that. So he could be a sneaky pod for a few that aren't really thinking about those players that are coming off the bye. So, we'll see how we go with that. But I really like Preston.
particularly in some of the other comps like the Challenger or the Champion. Preston's Diamond card. There seems to be a call out for Preston Diamonds just about every single day on the GDS Discord server. So yeah, people don't seem to want to play platinum cards in their champion side. So Preston might not get a run for a lot of people if they don't own his diamond card. And he's had scores of 62, 81, and 58 on that left-hand side. And like you said, we need to see that one game with Preston on the left edge there with Burton before Kickout comes back. At least it's is the first game of the round. So I'm going to know if Kickout is a late inclusion. Yeah. But I'm saying, nah, come on, Kickout. Have another week rest. Enjoy your Easter Friday from the sidelines and let Preston score plenty of points. I think there might have to be a little bit of reassessment, mate, if Kickout is named, which would shift Preston back to the right-hand side. But let's hope that we don't have to make that decision. And let's hope the coaches do the right thing, just like Desi Hasler has finally decided, hey, look, if I start David Fafita and I just tell him to run as hard as he can and offload the ball and do what he wants, then he's just an absolute weapon. That was the first match he went over 100 running meters. Surely that's enough to go, okay, this man needs to be on the field. He needs to be given the ball plenty of times and he needs to be running it more than, 12 or 15 times a game. 5 carries 2 weeks ago, definitely not enough. And that showed in the Titans' performance. They're a lot better. They're a lot closer to winning the match and they're only going to be a chance to win the match if David Fafita is playing the best footy, and we finally saw that. Let's hope that's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, 100% agree. And the other thing I really liked about Fafita was that little sweet play and the movement behind the ball, and sort of looked a bit like Hamali Olakau'atu on what he does on the right side. So if Fafita can continue that, I think it'll be good. And maybe this was the game that, he pulled his finger out and went, I've got to start performing for maybe that Origin jersey as well. So maybe we see a few more of those for Fafita leading into that Origin period. Alrighty, let's jump down. Oh, sorry.
Mate. It's got Nathan in the chat here as well saying Preston is the man. I can't disagree with you there, Nathan. He's definitely getting a start in a number of my teams this week. Good on you, buddy. Thanks for joining us. Nice to see a couple of new names in the chat tonight. Dill, let's move on to the halves. And I've got a question for you. Last week, you said that you wouldn't keep playing Nicho Hynes if he hit a certain number of GDS points. Do you remember how many points you gave him? And did he manage to crack that score or not?
I remember how many points I gave him. It was 60 GDS points. Okay. He fell just short on 57. I'm going to backtrack.
So what are we doing this week?
I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and I apologize, Mel, but I think I'm going to go one more time because the thing I love about that 57 points is it came without an attacking stat. He scored 57 without an attacking stat, which just means he has so much upside, and it just takes that one blow-up game for him, and he's back on everyone's minds, and maybe he's off everyone at the moment, which I would be happy with. It did give me some hope that in a more favourable matchup, we can sort of see him go back to those 75-plus performances that we saw last year, even though that was a down year for him. The other thing, the Sharks come up against the hapless Knights. I mean, they've struggled to score points in their recent outings, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and they've allowed a combined 66 points to be put on them in the last 3 games. So I think this is an opportunity for Hynes to sort of, get up there, do his work, get involved. And particularly, Hynes coming up against the right side there of the Knights, they've allowed an average of 57 GDS points to right side halves. So that's sort of, if he can get that and then maybe have an attacking stat on top, I think he really kicks his GDS season off, and he does it in style. If I reassess and I think I don't want to go with Hynes, then I think you've got a particularly good option, a particularly good pivot in that. In one Jaden Campbell. Try and convince me to get off Hynes and go with Jaden Campbell.
Well, all you got to do, mate, is look at the screen there and back in your man, Sif Kanger as well. He's gone Cleary, Fogarty and Campbell. There is no Nicho Hynes there. Melissa's even having a bit of a laugh as well, saying that you've rounded up. I guess, yes, 57 is closer to 60 than it is 50. So you've got a point there if you are rounding up in terms of your tens. But, mate, Jaden Campbell for me, if we look at total averages, Campbell's now the leading averager, got the highest average amongst all halves. And he's just playing some unreal footy for 80 minutes. The Titans aren't getting the job done in a lot of these matches, but he's still the one guy on the field that is trying absolutely every single time he gets the footy in his hands. And we saw it on the weekend just gone. He scored a massive, 77 points. He broke 11 tackles. He kicked a few goals, but he was trying until the very last minute, putting in a couple of chip and chases. He was just palming off blokes and doing absolutely anything he could to get the Titans over the line. He's averaging just shy of 500 kicking meters a game as well, which is unbelievable, and 20 tackles a game for a small man like himself. It's some really good tackle efficiency. When you add that to his attacking upside, his goal kicking, his tackle break ability, that's a really nice base with a really nice ceiling possibility as well. The Titans are giving up plenty of points. They're giving up the most fantasy points across the 13 starters each week, which means the Titans are always likely to be behind in a match and always going to be having to score plenty of points themselves in order to keep up with the opponent or to win the game as well. And it could have been easy for Campbell sort of just to take a back seat and, shovel the ball on when they were behind by, 2 or 3 tries in that game there. But he kept trying, and he's definitely adding a really nice spark to that attack. And maybe Fafita saw a bit of that and decided, he's ripping in, I'm going to rip in as well. So if those two are at the top of their game, there's no reason why the Titans can't score plenty of points. And I'm just loving the base that he's showing, particularly with his tackling and then the kicking as well with the boot. So the longer Foran is out of this team, the more and more I'm going to be enjoying playing Jayden Campbell. For such a little bloke, he can palm off plenty of tackles as well. And you get 3 points for a tackle break. It's just unreal how easy he found that toward the back end of last week, particularly around, some of those bigger forwards in the middle. He wasn't sort of sweeping, down as a second receiver and trying to, get past the edge back rower or the center. He was, breaking tackles and offloading in the middle of the field against some of those tired forwards. So really clever in terms of his footy IQ there at the back end, trying to score some points and win the game for the Titans. And he's just doing everything right in terms of accumulating fantasy points. The Titans don't have to win games for him to score big. And we've seen that for the last couple of weeks as well. So Jayden Campbell, for me, probably as my second confident pick in the halves. Yep. It's really hard to bet against Nathan Cleary. And I know we haven't seen the best of him. We've seen glimpses. We've seen a pretty nasty head knock. He might have been a little bit hesitant coming back from that, in the game just passed with just 53 points. But he had a really nice game, against the Cowboys, even though the Penrith Panthers are losing. Cleary is still, accumulating some really nice fantasy points and, without really too much attack. And that attack's going to come eventually. I don't think the Panthers are a 16th place side. They're not going to finish 16th. They're going to finish, certainly close to the 8, if not within the 8. And, they haven't just forgotten how to play footy. So Cleary's at the forefront of that. Yeah, it's not coming together, but I've got a sneaky feeling they're going to put a big win over the Roosters this week. We remember back in round 2 where the Roosters were, $11 outsiders to topple the Panthers, and they did it. Penrith are going to be spewing because of that. That sort of was the catalyst for their form slump. They haven't really recovered. They've lost to the Cowboys and the Dolphins in the last 2 weeks. So they get a chance to, make amends for that round 2 display against the Roosters. And we saw what the Roosters did against the Broncos. The shoe was on the other foot here. The Broncos smashed the Roosters in round 1. And the Roosters came out and, beat them on their own turf just last week as well. It's really interesting that teams are, getting a rematch 4 or 5 weeks later. In round 7, they're playing each other for the second time. But Panthers are going to be smarting from that loss. Nathan Cleary is going to be at the forefront of that. So him and Campbell are absolute locks for me. And my third player is just ahead of Nico Hines. That's Jamal Fogarty. You've obviously got Fogarty as well. Why is he in your team ahead of someone like Jayden Campbell?
Yeah, just for me, I guess that the benefit of Fogarty is just his ability, his kicking meters, his ability to demand the ball, and he's always involved in everything. As you said, there's going to be plenty of points in this game, I think, and he just continues to dominate in all aspects of the park for the Raiders, and they're the reason, or he's the reason, that they're winning some of those big games. He's averaging 444 kicking meters, 38 running meters, 24 tackles, over 4 goals and 1 try assist per game. So you can see why he's easily running as the second best, averaging half in the comp so far. And I think for me, he probably just has a little bit more consistency than Jayden Campbell. I think it doesn't take much for Jaden Campbell and that connection with Jaden Campbell and Brimson to potentially be broken in that Titans side, with someone like Jalen de Groot not performing at fullback. So they're looking at other options. Potentially Brimson moves back. How does that impact Jaden Campbell? There's a lot of questions there. And, as Foran gets closer to returning as well, I'm just not sure if that is going to continue. And if it does, great. Let's jump on the back of Campbell and go all day. But yeah, I think Fogarty for me is probably just a bit more consistent at the moment. But I can definitely see the attacking upside for Campbell. And, he let me have a closer look, but maybe he will come in instead of Hines. Maybe I will, fade under the peer pressure of Mel and Sif Kanga and yourself. And I might just go the Campbell route this week. And if Hines does score big, then I'll say, told you so. But I won't be the beneficiary of that big score. And I agree with Cleary as well. He's done about as much as he needs to do to convince coaches to continue to play him without having a massive score, even when the Panthers are losing pretty convincingly. If you take his HIA game out, where he got about 5 GDS points, he actually averages 62, which would have him ranked second behind Jaden Campbell at the moment. And then, if you look at the stats in terms of those few games, take out the HIA game, and Cleary averages almost 500 kick meters, 127 run meters, 15 tackles, 4 goals per game. That's about 54 in base per game. So I think for me, he just continues to be a set and forget. And just don't worry. If Panthers keep losing, who cares? Cleary is still dominating in that side, and we can run away with whatever score he gives us.
Yeah, spot on. The more people that don't play Cleary, the better for me. Sif Kang has also mentioned that Mitchy Moses is back this week. That'll be a big watch, won't it? It was obviously, when he was playing some good footy, he was just about one of the first 2 or 3 halves picked in our GDS teams last season as well. So just good timing as well that he gets that goal kicking with Lomax out for a few weeks as well. So do we think Mitchy Moses is a chance for the Blues, or is his return to the NRL a little bit too late to push for Origin selection?
No, I think you still could push. I think you'd have to do, something big over the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't put it past him. If you look at what the Eels have done so far, I think anything he does will add to the side. And I think probably anything that sort of Moses and Dylan Brown connect with is going to be good for Moses as well. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Brown's output improved too with the return of Moses. But yeah, I could see him definitely playing for the Blues, which I think will be dangerous for the Queensland side for sure.
Yeah, Mel's asked how do we think he'll go in his return game. I think the Eels have a bye next week, Mel, so I think he'll just want to get through this one. He probably won't do anything, too over the top. He'll want to run and pass well. He'll want to tackle well, and he'll want to kick downfield well. Just one of the little things right on his return game. And the Tigers are in a bit of turmoil at the moment, aren't they? So I think the Eels will approach this game with licking their lips and seeing an opportunity for a win here to get their season back on track leading into that bye. So yeah, they're going to be a lot more controlled with Moses leading the boys around the park. He'll just run and pass well. He'll tackle well. And he'll kick well. And yeah, I think the Eels are a big chance here to topple the Tigers. Dill, let's move on to the centres. Probably another position that isn't super exciting. There's probably those 3 or 4 options sort of week in, week out that we keep going back to. For me, that player that I'm picking just about every week without worrying about matchup is Herbie Farnworth. And then it's sort of a bit of a 50-50 between Garrick and Val Holmes. I know you're pretty keen on Herbie as well this week, despite the matchup with the Storm. Let's start with your second option, either Garrick or Holmes, and why you've gone that way.
Yeah, so I'm going to lean Garrick one more week. We saw in the loss to the Sharks last week, he still scored 59 points. So I think that, shows some positives there that Garrick can continue to score well, even without someone like Tommy Turbo there, bringing the team up the field. He now lines up against Valentine Holmes as well, which you could easily have both of those centres in your GDS side, and I wouldn't blink. But Val Holmes, he's back to his missed tackle worst. I think he started the season, the first 2 games without a missed tackle. In the last 3, he has had 8 missed tackles. So I think that's a pretty big watch there in Garrick running towards. And the other change, I guess, to that side is Christian Tuipulotu is out. I think he's celebrated one too many times, and I think they've dropped him from the side. Is that right? Is that what? No, he's out with that. I think was it a hammy or a calf issue.
Yeah.
So he's
right.
out. And Matty Fine comes in and lines up. I would assume he's going to line up outside Holmes there as well. And look, we don't have a lot to go on from his start to this year. He had one game so far and he missed a tackle there, but he missed 11 tackles in 5 games on the wing last season. So I think they're, Garrick and potentially Saab might have a big game as well. They're back at home. They're back at 4 points. We know what they can do. We know the difference between Manly at home versus Manly away. So I think they should have a big score in them. And even if you take out Garrick's blow-up game where he scored over 100 points, his average will still be ranked 6th best with the centres that are available this week. So even without that 100-point game, he's still averaging around 48, 49 GDS points. So again, another position that's can be volatile. You've got to be pretty happy with sort of that 50-odd points, and you run with that, particularly the fact that he's kicking goals, I think is the other big thing for me. If you're going to look at someone like him versus Farnworth, I'd probably lean Garrick every week because of that goal kicking upside and Manly's ability to attack. Obviously, they're not quite the same without Turbo at the back. However, last season when Garrick played a full game without Turbo, he averaged 49 fantasy points. So it's about what he's averaging now, whether he's playing with or without. So I think it's wheels up for Garrick and let him do his thing and add on to his base fantasy points of 42 without Turbo this season in the 3 games that he's played so far with that potential attacking upside.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there with the Sea Eagles at home. They are a much different team, aren't they? And the last time I didn't play Garrick in my GameDay squad team when he was playing at 4 Pines was, of course, his 4-try demolition of the Raiders. The only difference was he wasn't, he had a newborn that week, so there's a bit of motivation there to play for the baby rocking celebration. Maybe that was the only reason why he crossed the line that many times. But no, I think, Garrick at 4 Pines, even without Turbo, is still a solid play. And I might follow you and maybe pivot across from Val. Too many of those demerits, particularly on that side where he's sort of got to muscle up on Haumole Olakwatu. Val often sometimes sort of just runs in for a bit of a shot and bounces off and gets the -3 in demerits there. And he'll probably want to get up in the face of Garrick and Haumole, but that's only going to result in some negatives. So, the 5 missed tackles last week was a bit of a turn-off. But what didn't turn me off was the performance of Herbie Farnworth against the Panthers. We know that Panthers have been somewhat susceptible down their right edge defensively, but so have the Melbourne Storm. In fact, the Melbourne Storm are really vulnerable down their right-hand side, which is where Herbie is going to be attacking this week. And now they've got a couple of positional changes there as well. Grant Anderson moves in from the wing to the centre, so he'll be asked to do a lot more tackling than he has all season. And they've also got the little Suafa-Longo coming into that wing. And while that'd be really exciting for them in terms of attack, it's certainly not going to be fantastic for them in defence. He's obviously that little body. He hasn't played a lot of first-grade footy at all this season, and he only played in patches last season as well. So, having to mark, Herbie, who's got one of the best fends in the game, he's leading the entire comp for tackle breaks. And he's 4th for offloads. He's then got to, put up with the height and the speed of Bostock on the outside there as well. So although Farnworth comes up against the Storm, I probably wouldn't look to play any other players against the Storm, but I think this is a matchup I really want to take advantage of. And I think a lot of coaches might sort of bypass this one and think, oh no, the Storm are too good, but they've definitely got some vulnerabilities out there on the right. And if you're a betting man, I can see some tries being scored out there on the left through Herbie and Bostock.
Yeah, and you're 100% correct. The Storm are allowing an average of 50 GDS points to left centres this season. So I think it could cause some mayhem down that side. With all the changes happening as well, I think Farnworth is a great option. Again, the scary thing for me is that, if you go him over someone like Val Holmes, you miss out on that goal kicking. But it doesn't really matter when Herbie's making it up in all those tackle breaks and offloads that he is absolutely dominating the competition in. So, I'm also going to run Herbie Farnworth. So for me, I think I'm going to be similar to Sif Kanga, who has put in that he is going to run Farnworth and Garrick as well. And I think that's a pretty good option this week, and I think a lot of coaches will probably go that way. We've got a few other names there, but I just don't like the look of a couple of names. Best, obviously, the Knights are struggling a lot. Timoko might have a decent matchup this week as well. We've already talked about a lot of points being scored there. And Jesse Ramian, for me, he probably just doesn't do enough in attack. We've seen him have almost a similar number of tackle breaks for Farnworth, but outside of that, there's probably not a lot happening. So for me, I'm just going to stick with that Garrick Farnworth combination across pretty much all of my sides, I think.
Yeah, like it, mate. We got a question here from Ben Austin, another new name in the chat. G'day, mate. Thanks for joining us, Ben. He's asked Ponga or Gray. Mate, we haven't talked about the fullbacks yet, but maybe you might be talking about Maroon's selection. Is that what you're talking about? If so, Gray's every chance to get named in that number 1 jersey. After all, he is leading the Dally M count, and Ponga and Reece Walsh certainly aren't playing to the best of their ability. No, but isn't it great to know, Dill, that, Joe Gray is that next in line sort of after Ponga, Walsh, Hammer. Yeah. We've also got Joe Gray in there just biding his time, playing some really good footy, leading the Dally M count. Benny, Gray's up against the Doggies. The Doggies are defending really, really well. I'd look at Ponga for a bit of upside and hope that the Knights bounce back. But we'll get into the fullbacks shortly. Let's fly through the wingers, Dill. The wingers aren't super exciting. For me, Fletcher Sharp is just about a lock every single week. We've seen the downside from the Knights. They went over 200 minutes consecutively without scoring a try before, Sharp put in a little kick and chased it himself in the 79th minute there to get across the stripe and put some respectability on the Knights in that match. But a lot of question marks there over the Knights at the moment. But Sharp's just that bloke that just keeps having a crack and keeps digging in. And obviously scoring a try for kick in the 79th minute is evidence of that. He's got a really nice, solid amount of base in terms of, his run meters, his tackle breaks, and he's making plenty of tackles there. As a 5'8" on the field, but as a winger in GDS, it just makes sense that we lock and load him almost every single week. We know his floor is going to be pretty low, around that high 30, low 40. But when some of the best wingers in the competition don't score and have a really tough matchup, they're getting far less than that. The low 30s, the high 20s as well. We see that countless times. So for me, difficult spot there. The wingers, Fletcher Sharp is just about a must. So if you've got a Fletcher Sharp card for your starter team, I think you lock and load that bronze in, and then if you've got any rarities, you look to add him into your winger spot for those higher rarity comps. For me, it's really down to that second winger spot there. Dill, who have you gone, and why are you going that second winger alongside Sharp?
The wingers are just, it's just I don't know. I don't know. I was almost going to swear then that's how I feel about the wingers position at the moment. I just want to find someone that is consistently scoring me 40 points. But obviously I took a punt last week on Alex Johnston and that didn't work out for me based on the matchup. Don't worry, I had plenty of DMs telling me that I was an idiot and I needed to change that. But look, I'm going to take another punt based on the stats, and I'm going to go with Taruva over at the Tigers. Obviously, there's a bit going on at the Tigers, as you said. Lockie Galvin has found himself dropped from the side, but they've got a couple of exciting sort of changes there. But I think Taruva might still be the beneficiary of those changes and might still have a pretty solid performance up against the Eels that we've seen have been torn to shreds every which way through the middle on each side of the field. But, they've got the worst defensive record in the comp, particularly down that left side defensively, where Taruva is probably going to line up against them. The other thing I really like is we've already seen this matchup earlier in the competition. Taruva tore the Eels apart then with 3 tries and 76 GDS points. So the risk is obviously if he doesn't find the line a couple of times, his score could be below that 40, which we've actually seen on 3 occasions for Taruva. So it is a bit of a high risk, high reward. But as you say, any one of the wingers that we select outside of probably Sharp or those 2 players that we can't this week in Lomax and To'o, I just feel like it's a bit of a dart throw. And if they score, you're going to score some decent, you're going to score some decent points. And if you don't, well, you're going to get your 20 to 40 and you're just going to have to suck it up. So I think Taruva's got every opportunity. And I know a few of the Tigers fans will be pretty happy if he does go over the line a couple of times.
Yeah, and you've got to sort of wait on that until late on Monday. That's a long time waiting, looking at Taruva in your team there. I feel like you might get a little bit nervous and probably change him out
Maybe.
before that Monday afternoon,
Maybe.
but we'll see. Hey, I think the answer to the no Toto and no Lomax is pretty simple, and that's Jacob Kiraz. He obviously had that back injury in the preseason. He came back for one match before their bye. He wasn't amazing. He scored 28 points, but he still scored plenty. He still ran for about 175 meters, and he had a couple of offloads and tackle breaks. He just had a few errors, and those errors sort of came from maybe just trying too hard. And if there's anything that he does poorly, it maybe is that when he just tries a bit too hard. He competes for everything. He's always putting himself in a position to catch bombs, and sometimes he drops the footy, and that results in some demerit points. But he's just an absolute monster. He's a workhorse. He loves his footy. He rips in. And I think he's going to be the answer to our pretty poor wing spot while those two guns are out. If we look at his numbers last season, he played a lot through the wing and as a centre. But if we only look at his numbers as a winger, his run meters were over 200. He averaged 4.2 tackle breaks and 2.2 offloads a game. He scored 9 tries on that right wing in 13 matches. And the Dogs are, going really, really well this season. And their dominance is sort of on that left-hand side of the field. But when they make a sort of half break there on the left and they shift it right, someone with Kiraz's speed and power is certainly someone who can find the try line from anywhere. We know that he just carts the ball out from his own end really, really well, and he's not afraid to offload in his own half either. So, I think there's some really handy upside in Kiraz, and it's coming from his base, but also in his likelihood of getting some attack points as well. So while Toto and Lomax are out, I've got plenty of faith in Kiraz, and I've got him listed as my biggest pot of the week. So I'm hoping not many people follow that advice, and I'm happy if they stick to their AJs and Taruvas of the world.
So you don't want me to add the matchup stat about the Rabbitohs on the right side to right side wingers then, just to add to that Kiraz shout, or should we say?
Yeah, let us know. It's not going to happen, but let us know anyway.
Well, the Rabbitohs allow 57.4 GDS points to right side wingers so far this season, which is the most to any from any team in that position. So it's a big matchup there for Kiraz, and he's got every opportunity, I think, to be able to score that sort of 55 plus up against the Rabbitohs. So if the Doggies can identify that weakness there of the Rabbitohs, I think they might start to go down that right side a little bit more, which probably just tracks a little bit from our left side Preston play. But maybe if he does move to the right side, maybe that's even more shout for Kiraz as well, and do that stack there. So I like the pod call. And like you said, he's a player that's only just come back from injury. People might not necessarily be looking at him because he's not going to be featured highly on that averages. But he'll be there and thereabouts. So I think, maybe you've convinced me as well that Taruva's not the option this week, and that I just stick with some solid play in Kiraz. I like it.
I thought you were going to tell me that the left side winger scored a lot better than the right side, just from the eye test, looking at how the Rabbitohs defended. But that even adds, that adds much more of a lock there. And Benny Austin knows what's up as well. He already had Kiraz in his team. He says, no big deal. I've already picked him. I know he's going to score well. And I think there are going to be few people following myself and Benny Austin there. So,
love it.
Let's talk about some fullbacks and
let's
get out of here.
Love it.
Righto. For me, Pappy seems to be the lock of the week for you. Do you want to tell us why he's your lock and the other two that you're going to run with this week?
Yeah, I think Pappy's the lock for me. We obviously saw him have that pretty big game against the Warriors as expected, and he didn't have to do a whole lot to accumulate all the points that he did. I don't think he scored a try in that game, but he was there and thereabouts a couple of times, and he was always through the middle looking for that last pass. So I think he's going to be the reason that the high-flying Dolphins might just crash back to earth, similar to what they did to the Warriors last week. I think the Storm are in a position where they are just going to try and annihilate everyone now. And I think they're going to probably finish at the top of the table come the end of the season, the way they're playing. And like I said, they just don't have to do too much, do they? They don't have to overplay their hand. They're just finding opportunities down the right, down the left, and through the middle. And we saw Harry Grant even, dart out of half a couple of times and carve up through the middle with Pappy there on his inside or outside. So I think they'll continue to do that against this Dolphins side that, hey, they've played some really good footy over the last couple of weeks, but we've also been pretty nervous come start of the season around their attacking form, and they sort of have found some of that, but I feel like this could be a game really that drops out. The Dolphins allowing an average of 53.6 GDS points to fullbacks this season. That has them ranked 4th for points allowed to that position. So he's got every opportunity. And we know Pappy just scores GDS points from pretty much every blade of grass that he plays on, whether it's the run meters, the kicking meters, scoring tries, setting them up, kicking goals. He does everything for the Storm. And for me, he is, like you said, the lock of the week. So I'm gonna run with him and be pretty happy with that, and whatever he gets outside of that, it'd be lovely. The second player I'm going with this week is Teddy, and he just continues to do Teddy things, doesn't he? Maybe it's because he's a part of the GDS family that he's smashing it out and helping out all those GDS coaches. But look, he's first in points scored and points and average points for fullbacks this season. He's up against the Panthers. Could be a really difficult game. But I spoke about Hammer last week being a potential pod against the Panthers because of their vulnerability to fullbacks that we've seen this season, and he turned up against them. So I think, Teddy is a completely different player to Hammer. We know that, but Teddy just continues to break tackles. He continues to make those yards in some teams or some games where they haven't been winning, or they've been sort of out of form quite a bit. So I think for me, the Panthers allowing an average of 61 GDS points to fullbacks has them ranked first in that position. I'm going to exploit that again, just like I did with the Hammer call last week, and go with Teddy. Is that sort of where you're thinking as well, mate?
Yeah, definitely those two. Yeah, Teddy's just playing some really good footy. He's probably the most consistent fullback in the competition. And the matchup with Penrith looks pretty tough on paper. Obviously, we've seen some vulnerability there. And like Hammer last week, that was an unreal shout by you. And I know a lot of people played Hammer and loved that 101 points there as well. Teddy did score 65 points back against them back in round 2 there as well. He's leading the comp in tackle breaks. He's pumping out 200 run meters a game. So he's got that really nice floor. I think it's going to be a tight game. I still think the Panthers get the win here, but that just means Teddy's going to be chasing the game and carting the footy up through the middle, breaking tackles and looking for holes in the defensive line, for that full 80 minutes. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident on both Pappy and Teddy. Pappy's adding, that 15 to 18 points in goal kicking alone to his score while Meany is out. The Storm are scoring 36 points a game on average at the moment. So that's just incredible base there for Pappy, and he can score a try from anywhere. And, when he makes a break or backs up and he runs 40 or 50 meters, that's just that extra 4 or 5 points on top of that 10 points for the try as well. So probably just comes down to that third fullback position. And there's a few players on screen there, and obviously a number of players not even on screen there that could be played across teams as well. Jai Gray's been really, really good. Hammer's obviously coming off that big 100. I think you've got a pretty big pod play that you want to mention last week and see if you can go back-to-back in pod calls. But for me, I'm going to be pretty boring here, and I'm just going to stick with Gutho. But I'm going to tell you why. There's a bit of a trend happening with Gutho's scores. He had that underwhelming 34 against the Titans, even though they scored plenty of points. He just wasn't quite in it, throwing that last pass or slicing through the line like he did in the match before. And 34 points without really any attack was okay, but not amazing. Look, he's gone 19, then 74, down game with 40, then a 95, a down game for 34. So he's going down, up, down, up, down. I can see what's coming here, and that has to be an up score and a big score. So I know that you're sort of the trend man, and you like looking out for these trends and backing these trends here. Am I a bit silly in terms of this one, or is there an opportunity here for me coming out the right end here with a big score from Gutho to continue that trend? What do you reckon?
No, I love that. Like you said, I love trends, and I like finding interesting trends, and that one certainly is. If like you said, if we follow that, it's definitely a wheels up for Gutho this week in what should be an unreal game that kicks off the round as well. For me, my sort of toss up and where I was looking was either Gutherson or the potential Latrell Mitchell play. I think, look, he's playing out of position in terms of on the field versus game day squad. We can play him at fullback, but he's playing in the halves. And his first game starting in the halves, he scored 63 GDS points, which came through a massive 715 kicking meters. That is a monster of kicking meters there. It's similar to what we got last season from Fogarty. He also had 81 running meters, 4 tackles, no missed tackles, which is awesome to see from Latrell. We know he can go missing at times. So I feel like being close to the ball was a bit of a benefit for him. He also had 2 try assists and 2 goals on top of that. We know the Bulldogs are a little bit of a different defensive side versus the compared to the Cowboys who they played last week. So it could be a bit of a different matchup for Latrell. But even if we just look at his base stats of 34 and then that upside of bulk attacking stats, I think he could be a genuine option. So it's just whether I want to take that little risk in Latrell or play it safe with someone like Gutherson. And that'll probably come down to sort of an hour before kickoff in that Latrell, in that Gutherson game, excuse me. But yeah, you did touch on a little bit of a pod potential based on the stats as well. And again, I've got another one for everyone out there. So make sure that you are listening closely. Potentially, I think Connor Tracy for the Dogs could have a massive game. He matches up against the Bunnies that have allowed 60 GDS points to fullbacks this season. That includes a 61 from Drinky last week, a 73 earlier in the season from Teddy, a 73 from Gutho, and a 61 from Hammer. So if you think the Dogs are really going to solidify that top spot on the ladder and are going to have a massive game against the Rabbitohs, then maybe Tracy's a shout this week as a massive pod, and we'll just see how that goes. Like you said, we saw how Hammer went, and maybe Tracy could do something similar as well. So I might just play him in maybe my classic side just in case.
It's a spicy take, mate. I do like it. And his 2 big scores this season have coincided with Burton on the field as well. And, Tracy's had a couple of down games. Burton's been on the sideline. Burton comes back this round. Tracy's got a really good matchup. I think, all the stars are aligning in terms of that call coming out on top. So I do like it. And I can see him as a really nice pod play this round. He might even get a start in one of my sides now looking at those numbers. I like that shout. Good on you, mate.
Love it.
All righty. Here's a quick look, everyone, at a bit of a rundown on those players that we've spoken about. Here's a look at our starter squads for round 7 and also Dill's GDS Cup squad as well. He's coming up against Willow's Titans. And unfortunately, I've got that red eliminated symbol there above my head because I am gone. But Dill's still alive, which means the Fantasy Bros are still flying. Willow's Titans, mate, have you done any research on him?
Not yet, but that's tomorrow's job. I might do that down on the beach tomorrow with the sun shining. So I'll be pretty keen to look up how he's going. And I've got a little bit of insider information potentially on some of these players, but I'm not going to give away my source at all.
Wow, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Slowly becoming my favorite segment of the week. I know it's probably your least favorite segment of the week, but once again, Bro Down Showdown has returned a win for Stu. We've changed things up just to make it a little bit maybe fairer or even, or give Dill more of a chance to win. But look, that obviously still didn't happen. We spun a wheel. We chose 3 different positions and picked from those positions. My 3 picks of Herbie, Isaiah Yeo, and Toby Couchman came up trumps over Dill's Val, Fanua Blake, and Eli Katoa. So what that means is I get a 3-player rare pack, and I get 2 cards, and one of those cards will go to the viewers. So how do you want to work this one, Dill?
Usually we would spin a wheel with everyone that commented the winning name. But this week's wheel has one name and one name only. So did you still want me to spin it, or should we just announce who picked correctly? Look, for the interest of time, let's just announce the winner for this week is John PB8. He was the only one that backed you, the only one that had faith in Stu with another win. And John PB8, you have earned yourself potentially a diamond card or even a legend if we can. It is a 3-player rare, but you never know what is there. And it's simple as to be able to get involved. You just have to comment who you think is going to win the matchup for the week. And as John PB8 did, he was the only one, so he gets a card. So, Stu, where do you want to go first, mate?
Because John backed me, I'm going to reveal all three and let him take his pick. So he'll need to get in touch with one of us, either via the GDS Discord or via our Instagram, and he can take a pick of any of these three. So let's just go from right to left, Dill.
Let's go.
We got Shibasaki Gold.
It'd
be a nice little pod.
Up against the Warriors.
There's a Dylan Edwards Gold.
Here we go. And one more.
Wow, a Reece Robson Platinum.
Nice.
So three really good options there. And can you just remind me of what that user's name was?
John PB8.
John PB8. Take a pick of those three, buddy. Any of those are yours. Just get in touch with one of us through the GDS Discord or the Instagram, and that is yours. That's probably one of the best packs we've had on Breakdown Showdown, Dill, don't you think?
Yeah.
All right. Great pack. This week we spun the wheel again. We are picking a half each, a winger each, which could be very interesting, and an edge forward once again. Dill's gone for Jamal Fogarty, Fletcher Sharp, and David Fafita. I've gone for Jaden Campbell, Karaz, and Preston. There's a couple of doggies there on Good Friday. So if you think I'm going to outscore Dill in terms of the matchup versus matchup and come out on top 2-1 or 3-0, make sure you comment my name in the comment section here and the YouTube video once we finish this live. If you think Dill's going to win and finally get back on that into that winner's circle after a couple of weeks not featuring, make sure you comment Dill's name again. But you saw what happened last week when you all commented Dill's name. None of you got a chance. The only person that did gets the pick of the bunch. So it's up to you. There's a bit of a pattern forming here. There's no real trend, Dill, apart from Stu, Dill, Stu. I think that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah, so far. But hey, look, my biggest fan maybe in Cozzy's posse, he has picked me. So good on you, Cozzy. Thank you for coming along. Maybe it's the week that I get up because I haven't picked Hines. Maybe that's it. Maybe that might be the difference maker, or maybe Hines scores his biggest score yet. Who knows?
Could be onto something there, mate. Ooh. All right, Dill. That is it. The end of the round 7 live show. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We had plenty of new faces, a heap of comments there in the chat as well. It's great to see everyone getting involved and joining in the fun as well. Hopefully, we've pointed you in the right direction for a few of those players to add into your GDS lineups for round 8. Dill, thank you very much, mate. Enjoy the nice weather down there on the coast. Enjoy the beach tomorrow. Good luck for the GameDay Squad Cup this round. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good luck this week. Remember, make sure that you're signing up using the code FBRL25. You're getting your mates involved as well so that they can join in the fun and rip some packs as well. Thanks, Dill. Thanks, everyone, for joining once again. Good luck this week.
Thanks, everyone.